And we live. It's funny here. This your thing here, ain't it, Sutekh?
Yeah, see how easy it was.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to figure this on here. Figure this in here.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to figure this on here.
All right. Yeah, I gotta. It just look funny, but it just I don't know. It just I just look funny to me. It look funny to me. So hold on, I'm finished. Share it real quick. Y'all share it too. Damn. God damn. Okay. Let me post it. All right, peace to Enigma 9x9, peace Detro 0861, peace Melanated Goddess. Give us just a second. We finna get started. Give us just a second. Be patient with just a minute, man. We finna get started. But shit, we got five. Give us just a second, man. I know we gonna get started. Folks will start hopping on in and out there. Just have some patience with us real quick. We finna get started. But we can go ahead and get started. I want to just say first, ETM Hotel, Dua Aku, Dua Netcher, Fatmu Alafie, Fatmu Riri, Fatmu Iwa Pele, Majuba Iba Egungun, Majuba Iba Egungun, Egungun Kiki Egungun. I always want to give honor and praises to the ancestors, because without the ancestors, we wouldn't be here. We are our ancestors. I also want to extend honor and praises to the true and living elders according to African traditions, because I look at everything, or we look at everything from an African perspective. Welcome back to Kofi Piesie TV YouTube channel, or welcome back to Kofi Piesie Research Team YouTube channel. I got all the team on the panel, brother Herit, Shawn, Khalfani, brother Vasa Nicolo Gullah, brother Sutekh, brother T'Challa Bangara. We missing one of the brothers, brother Sutekh Akande Peace. I think he's kayaking somewhere with his family. Like I said, welcome back to the show. Before brother Sutekh go in, any of y'all on the panel got anything? Before I turn it over to Sutekh.
Guess I'll go and say peace to everybody that's tuned in. Like and share the show. And let's see what Brother Sutekh talking today.
ETM Hotel, Rennie Shawn. Welcome in peace. My name is Shawn. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into the show today. Tell a friend. We back at it again. Make sure y'all go and cop the Spears of the Mossi book out right now. If you need a shirt, holler at us. We got them too. From small all the way up to 3X at the moment. Put your order in, man. We getting them shipped out. You know what I mean? So we riding around and getting it. Second, we riding around and getting it. Get your shirt, man. You know what I'm saying? Support us. For those who've been rocking with us, man, we appreciate the support, the growing support, and we're gonna continue to, to liberate the mind of all our family members, friends, and people that we don't know yet. So, and it's because of you guys that we continue to do what we do, and we working hard, and we trying to stay on our grind, and just let y'all know that we're serious about liberating the African mind. And not only just talking about problems, but providing solutions through what we're doing and practicing cooperative economics and reciprocity. We stand on our word. So we do that, in honor of our ancestors and our living ancestors. You know what I mean? So that's where we at with that.
Yep. Peace, brother Chavis. Anybody else? For Sutekh, get it in. Peace, brother Mathis. Peace. Tamika, one. Peace. To everybody, Vasa, you said something.
Peace, everybody. Peace to the listening audience, both present and future, and peace to my brothers on the panel. I was gonna type in the chat in here that I kind of getting a distorted sound. I didn't know if that was gonna affect my mic or not. But peace, everybody. I'm gonna go to mute and keep seeing how to get this distortion out, or if that's just on my end or not.
All right. Well, I'm gonna turn it over to brother Sutekh. Y'all, please like and share the show. Please like and share the show with those that you think that may appreciate this information. You know, I always have to reiterate that because sometimes you might share it with people and you might be just wasting your time sharing it because they're not gonna click on, or if they click on, they're gonna pop out because they don't appreciate the information. So please, um, share the show with those that you think that may be appreciative of this information. And peace, Sister Anusha, and peace, Brother LB. Peace, peace. All right, bro. Sutekh, is on you, my brother. It's on you.
Peace to the chat. Peace to my brothers on the panel. Peace to everybody that will be seeing this in the archives. Today, I will be doing a brief build on the term Moor. And it's going to be specifically about the term and its usage throughout certain periods. So I'm going to get straight into it.
Peace, Brother Omar Reed. Peace, Brother Omar Reed. Peace, mine, Lafayette eBay. Evie. Mute my mic.
Okay. Is my screen sharing?
Not yet, bro.
Okay. It should be. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah, there we go. Okay. This is the
Sutekh.
Yeah.
You know, I ain't too familiar with StreamYard. Is there any way I can make yours enlarge, and that's the biggest size it'll get?
That's as big as it's gonna get right now, unless we take the emblems off from the share.
Oh, okay.
On the bottom of the screen, it should be.
Okay,
yeah,
there it is.
Okay, yeah. So this is my my title slide. The presentation is called "What's Your Nationality?" Just a little wordplay. We know the Moors like to ask this question: "What's your nationality?" A brief breakdown on the term Moor. And on the left, I got the Moor Slayer, and that is his name, Saint. I cannot remember his exact name, but his moniker is the Moor Slayer. Hold on, let me check. Let me get it right. The Moor Slayer is Saint James Matamoros, and he was called the Moor Slayer because he was laying them down. So just a metaphorical imagery. So let's get right into it. In the classical etymology, that's a typo. This is what it's supposed to say. Prior to the campaigns of maritime expansion initiated by Portuguese travelers in the 15th century, the Moor, Portuguese Moros, Castilian Moro, was an emblematic African in the Iberian literary and historical imagination. Moor is alternatively denotative and connotative, precise and imprecise, historically accurate and imaginatively construed. Etymologically, geographic writings gave birth to Moro as a generic label. The word derives from Latin mortis, an adjective meaning Moorish or of the Moors that referred to the inhabitants of Mauritania, a region of North Africa comprised of two provinces and frequently described by classical geographers. Now, take note that Mauritania is a region in North Africa comprised of two provinces. I'll give you the names for those provinces in the later slides. Okay, in his geography, for example, Strabo, and we all know that this is one of the points of the Moors. They like to go to Strabo and use one of his famous quotes about Moors. So, for example, in his geography, for example, Strabo, in speaking of Libya, i.e., Africa, mentions the Moors or Mauritians from Maurtia, the Greek word for Mauritania, as a Libyan tribe living on the side of the strait opposite Iberia. Okay, it's your boy Strabo. Strabo also writes, here dwell a people called by the Greeks Marusi, and by the Romans and the natives Maori. Now I'm going to read that again. Take note of the context and the wordage that he's using. Here dwell a people called by the Greeks Marusi, and by the Romans and the natives Mari. Notice that Strabo did not say that these people called themselves Mari. This is just reading comprehension 101. The people themselves were not noted to call themselves Mari. He said, here dwell a people called by the Greeks Marusi, and by the Romans and the natives Mari. And remember, North Africa or Mauritania was a Roman province. So you can have Romans there, you can have other natives there, and those people not necessarily be indigenous. Being a native and being indigenous are two totally complete different things, and I break that down right here. Native, a person born in a specified place or associated with a place by birth, whether subsequently resident there or not. So wherever you born at, that means you're a native to that place. That doesn't mean that you are indigenous to that place. Indigenous, ethnic groups who are the original or earliest known inhabitants of an area, in contrast to groups that have settled, occupied, or colonized the area more recently. See, it's given a contrast there between natives and indigenous people. So the indigenous people were not said to be calling themselves Maori. This is what the Romans and the other natives called them. As can be seen from Strabo's mention, Maori was an exonym. An exonym is a term placed on people or given to people by outsiders, not necessarily a term that people use for themselves, but a term like Ethiopian, for example. Those people did not originally call themselves Ethiopian. That was a Greek term given to them by outsiders, i.e., the Greeks. So that is another example of an exonym. Okay, let me start over. As can be seen from Strabo's mention, Mari was an exonym, as it was not said to be used by the people themselves. All right. Pliny the Elder includes Tangier in his Historia Naturalis, or Natural History, as a part of Mauritania, and in it lived the Moors, from whom it takes its name of Mauritania, by many writers called the Marusi. Pomponius Mela like Strabo, juxtaposes Mauritania and Spain as facing one another across the sea and identifies the mountains Jebel Musa and Gibraltar as the pillars of Hercules. Mauris was one of the many terms used to describe the peoples of Africa in classical texts, and often coincided with the Greek and Latin terms for Ethiopians. Remember, I just said that, which were, as Frank M. Snowden Jr. observes, words synonymous with blackness of skin. In the middle, and we're going to get back to that, the blackness of skin. In the Middle Ages, Isidore de Sevilla, or Isidore of Seville, reiterates the etymological connection between darkness of skin and the name Mauritania in his etymologies, by noting that Mauritania takes its name from the color of its people, since the Greeks called blackness moron. All right. Now, this is just imagery to back up what was just said. How Notice how close Morocco is, the northern tip of Morocco is to the southern tip of Spain. They sit adjacent to each other, as I just said in the previous slide. It's just a little image to make sure you understand how close in proximity these two entities were. Morris could then, from an early date, be a catch-all term for Africans in the pens of Iberian writers. So now you see how broadly this term is being used. It's starting to be more broadened, more generalized. So varied were the understandings of Morris in the early Middle Ages, in fact, that by the 8th century, Mauritania became a word like Christendom, whose geographical significance depended on context. This is a crucial point because it establishes that Mauritania, and by extension, Moor, was vulnerable to the exegeses and positionalities of writers in discourse, even though punitively what was being referenced was the objective, quote unquote, fact of geographic boundaries. Mauritania ceased to be a fixed region in Africa and becomes an itinerant and constructed zone of religious, linguistic, and racial alterity, whose existence and location reflect culturally or politically determined perspectives and objectives. The location of Mauritania, then, far from being a predetermined fact, can in large part depend on who's doing the looking. So basically, it's saying how the geographic, the quote unquote geographic borders of Mauritania could be different depending on who you're talking to and what time period that you're talking to them in. You know, it all changes the context. So you see the shiftingness of Mauritania and the term Moor. In a study of medieval texts written in Latin in Spain, Neville Barbar provides some specifics, excuse me, on various understandings of Morris, in addition to the related terms Saracens and Arabs. Barbar acknowledges the common understanding of Maori and Saraceni as designations for Muslim inhabitants of Spain and Al-Andalus, and notes the etymological link to Mauritania. However, the location of Mauritania as a geographic space is unstable. While the name Mauritania meant properly the former Roman provinces, Mauritania, Khazarisis, and Mauritania Tinginantis, or I'm pretty sure I said that wrong, but you get the point, corresponding to the present Western Algeria and northeastern Morocco. Latin writers sometimes used it not only to cover all North Africa, but also the whole of the African continent as far as the equator, beyond which geographical knowledge did not then extend. So they're using Mauritania, or they are spreading the borders of Mauritania to places that they don't even know about, that they have no knowledge about. So it shifts and changes more and more. No pun intended. The term Moor has a long and contested history, both as a historical figure and an image representing various ideas. While it generally has been used to refer to various populations of people who have historically inhabited North Africa, its significance has changed over time. In the article The Moors, Ross Brand considers the meaning and significance of Moorish identity in literary works, films, and scholarship. Brand notes that even today, the figure is employed regularly in academic circles and popular culture without much question or reflection, and without clarification of who precisely the Moors are. Recounting a history of the uses of the term Moor, he explains that Andalusi Arabic sources, as opposed to Mudehar and Morisco sources, Mudehar is Mudehars are the Moors that converted to Christianity after the Reconquista or the Reconquest, and were and that still remained in Spain. So the Moors that converted after the Reconquest and still stayed there in Spain, those are Mudehar. And Morisco is basically the same thing. Moors that converted to Christianity. Neither refer to individuals as Moors nor recognize any such group, community, or culture. Let me read that again. Recounting a history of the uses of the term Moor, he explains that Andalusi Arabic sources. So he's saying that the Arabic sources neither refer to individuals as Moors nor recognize any such group, community, or culture. They do not use this term. The people who these European Christians are calling Moors, they don't use this term unless the only time you will see them use this term is if they are in Europe and have uh, usually converted to Christianity, or they have been influenced by European Christian culture. But these people didn't call themselves Moors. This has always been a term placed on them by the outsiders. Moor is a term applied from the outside by Europeans, yet unlike relatively stable terms of Roman provenance inherited by Christians such as Arabs, Ishmaelites, and Saracens, which are all exonyms as well. The significance of the term varies in particular historical moments and shifts over time. It's what we've been talking about this whole time. All right. Early in the history of Al Andalus, and for those that don't know, Al Andalus is Moorish Spain. So early in the history of Al Andalus, Moor signified Berber as a geographic and ethnic identity. Later writing, however, from 12th and 13th century Christian kingdoms demonstrates the transformation of Moor from a term signifying Berber into a general term referring primarily to Muslims, regardless of ethnicity, living in recently conquered Christian lands, and secondarily to those residing in what was still left of Al Andalus. In addition to shifting the significance of the term from one geographically based ethnic group to a broad religious group, this this use of the term flattens out the differences between the various ethnic Muslim communities within the Islamic kingdoms through the 8th to 12th centuries. the significant conflict between which contributed to the political upheavals in the Islamic world during that time. And you see the black Moor on the side. They got the sister as a slave to the harem. Okay, got a lot of words in this slide. Scholars have also noted other variances in elicited image elicited by the term Moor that stems from combinations of the above meanings, which are the meanings from the previous slide. Within 13th century texts, for example, various semantic transformations of the Moor provide occasions in which the racial dehumanization and religious demonization of Moors by Europeans very nearly converge. So now the European Christians are not only starting to add religion into the mix of the term, but they are also starting to use racial dehumanization into the term also. Okay, where was that? Brand and Lumba point to examples of texts in which Moorishness becomes increasingly associated with various forms of blackness. The Moor is associated in some cases with the metaphorical blackness of the soul as an expression of religious prejudice, and in other cases with physical blackness associated with the image of Africa, despite the fact that the North African Arab and Berber populations were not necessarily dark skinned. I don't know if y'all caught that. I'm gonna go back and read it.
Yeah, run that back one more time, Sutekh.
Okay, I got you. Brand and Lumba point to examples of texts in which Moorishness becomes increasingly associated with various forms of blackness. Various forms. The Moor is associated in some cases with the metaphorical blackness of the soul as an expression of religious prejudice, right? And in the other cases, with the physical blackness associated with the image of Africa, despite the fact that North African Arab and Berber populations were not necessarily dark skinned. So they are using not only physical blackness but metaphorical blackness of the Europeans use black as bad from the jump. You know what I mean? So they're using their metaphorical blackness of uh, of their religious context, and they're using the physical blackness of the black Africans to uh, intermix in this term more. Okay, for Christian readers, then the Moor indicated not only religious and cultural difference, but also a foreign presence from Africa, one increasingly represented through a physical darkness. The Moor's relation to geography, religion, and racial meanings is complex and changes as the significance of these categories change themselves. For example, the idea of race itself undergoes a variety of changes from the end of the medieval period through the end of the Renaissance and into the 18th century. Many early modern scholars have increasingly warned that it is a mistake to draw a direct line between the notions of scientific biology or biological race that emerged in the 19th century and earlier references to race. If the precise if the precise conceptions of race differ in significance over time and across cultures, it is important to recognize that the image of that the hold on one second. Oh man. it is important to recognize that the image of the Moor has consistently been associated with that very set of shifting and overlapping categories of identity from the medieval period onwards. Given the instability of the figure of the Moor's identity, it is not surprising that the significance of representation of the Moor in literature over the centuries varies depending on the perspective and location from which it is viewed and the identity categories to which it is related. Tradition of morophilia or morophobia, depending on the purpose writers have for representing this figure, which is itself a construction. When viewed from the developing Catholic Spanish nation, for example, the religious Muslim identity and foreign otherness, whether racialized or not, were often emphasized in support of the creation and consolidation of European Spanish identity. So basically, they are trying to say that at a period in time they were using this term to separate themselves from the people around them and form a solid identity. However, in liberal critiques of the blood purity statutes and protests against the infamy label, Moors became exotic or noble figures to be provocatively or nostalgically remembered. As mentioned above, from the Anglo Empire struggling to define itself in relation to the Spanish Empire, the Moor was often identified as physically black, Africanized, as part of the Anglo Empire's attempt to figure the Spanish as morally blackened. So, again, I want to reiterate that when they talk about blackness, it's not always physical blackness. Yet there is an Anglo tradition of the Moors as exotic and again noble that is associated with the nostalgic view of the Oriental East. The Moor thus becomes a figure in European imaginative geography, which can be constructed in relation to a number of identity categories depending on the time and place from which it is viewed. Okay, from Spain's purity of blood statutes of 1449 through the 16th century imperial wars and later perception of Moorish religious and cultural difference allowed to the Castilian kings to create a shifting identity of their own, one based on seemingly nationalistic calls for homogeneity in the religion and heritage. In other words, from medieval times through the Renaissance, the figure of the Moor is one through which Europeans define themselves and build their own sense of Europeanness. And in fact, as Levering Lewis shows, the term Europeanness or Europeans was coined to describe the identity of Christians after the defeat of Muslim armies in Poitiers in 732. Henry Kamen views the expulsion of Jews and Moors from Spain as a part of Castilian political move to consolidate religious and political unity around a single ideology that would serve Castilian monarchs in imperial ventures at home and abroad. The presence of Moors was used as a symbolic device to unite otherwise fragmented Iberian Peninsula around the ideology of territorial unity and cultural homogeneity, whether or not these existed in fact or despite the fact that difference can never be eradicated. So basically, again, this slide was speaking on how they are using uh, they are using this identification of Moor or Moorishness to make a distinction between them and the others that are living in their land. You see the Moorish brother on the side there. Most of these black Moors, or as they are known in the Arabic sources, Herit, most of these are slaves in Europe. But I will be. I'm probably going to make this into a series and add to it. So I'll talk about that in the next one. Like most ancient societies, the Christian Middle Ages were attentive to the colors of the body and to skin color even more than hair and eye color. Text and images offer instructive, abundant information in this area as it evolved over the course of centuries and differed according to the geography and the social milieu involved. In the Central Middle Ages, dark skin color was almost always negative, belonging to individuals located outside the social, moral, and religious order. These individuals, in one way or another, maintain more or less direct relationships with the world of the devil and hell. The dark appearance of their skin was a visible sign of their evil, pagan, and transgressive natures. Moreover, this characteristic was often associated with other attributes related either to the body or clothing, which helped to reinforce their perfidious and diabolical aspects. So at this time period, they are starting to conceive the color black as associated with uh, pagans, as associated with the devil, as associated with anything negative. And it's it's black skin, it's physical black skin, but it's also they use blackness to describe um, anything outside of any religion outside of theirs. Somebody got something to say?
Nah, that one, man. You good? Go ahead.
Okay. All right. In regard, in this regard, the example of Judas is noteworthy. Now, peep this example. No canonical text in the New Testament, not even any apocryphal gospel, tells us about his physical appearance. By the same token, representations of him in early Christian and then in Carolingian art are not characterized by any specific features. Nonetheless, in representations of the Last Supper, an effort was made to distinguish him from other apostles by setting him apart in some ways that involved his placement, size, or stance. But after the year 1000, and especially beginning in the 12th century, first in his first in images, then in text, attributes highlighting the demonic nature of this perfidious apostle multiply. Small stature, low forehead, bestial or distorted face, thick mouth, pause, I don't know about that, dark lips because of the accusatory kiss, red hair and beard. We, if anybody knows anything about Muslims, you would probably understand why they put red hair and beard in there. Very dark skin, yellow robe, clumsy gestures, hand holding the stolen fish or the purse with the 30 silver pieces, toad or a black demon entering the mouth, halo either absent or black in color. Each century provided Judas a succession of attributes. Two of these involved color of the body and recurred particularly often, dark skin and red hair. Okay. These two attributes are found again in Chanson's Deheste, where they are associated with the Saracens who challenged the Christian knights. So these, the dark skin and the red beard, are associated with quote unquote Saracens or Muslims or Moors. Even more than red hair, the Saracens have dark skin. Remember, again, this dark skin is all relative. You can get Arabs and put them next to um, the pale skin of the European, and at certain periods, these Europeans were calling that dark or swarthy or black or tawny. You know what I mean? So it's not always um, physically dark like a sub-Saharan African type. But there were sub-Saharan Africans that were considered Moors also. So, even more than red hair, the Saracens have dark skin, brown, or even distinctly black hair. That is their most common characteristic, a manifest sign of their evil nature. The darker the skin, the more formidable the character. Certain authors even multiply comparative expressions to emphasize black's negative connotations. They will say stuff like black is a crow, or black is cold, or black is hot tar. So if any of y'all out there are using terms similar to this, black as so and so, something negative, then that's where this mind state comes from, Europeans. Black as a crow, black as coal, black as hot tar, even black as pepper sauce. These expressions recurred so frequently that the most common adjective for describing this skin color, more or more, finally turned into a noun and became the term for designating this ethnic group. The Saracens became Moors. The term applied not only to North Africans, as was sometimes the case in classical Latin, Mari, but but to all Muslims from Spain to the Middle East. In a short, anonymous chanson d'Este composed towards the end of the 12th century, La Prise de Orange, the hero Guillaume and his two companions darkened their faces and bodies with coal to disguise themselves as Moors and clandestinely entered the city. Guillaume, in fact, is in love with the Saracen queen, Orable, whom he has never seen, whose beauty is renowned. Whom he had never seen, but whose beauty is renowned. Nevertheless, their ruse is soon discovered because their artificial coloring cannot withstand sweat or rain. So the color starts to fade. Happily, happily, with Orable's help, they managed to get themselves out of this tight spot. And the young Moorish woman becomes a Christian, changes her name, and she marries Guillaume. Thus, the rejection of black had gone too far. After 1760, exoticism offered the color a way to return to the artistic and literary scene. Long distance voyages, discoveries of unknown lands, and new horizons for international trade changed the scale of European interest and knowledge. Greater attention was given to Africans, both for despicable hold on, both for despicable mercenary reasons, the cruel triangle of commerce between Europe, Africa, and America, for the ethnological and philosophical reasons. Why did different skin colors exist in different latitudes? And if anybody had seen my presentation I did called Black is Beautiful, I explained why different skin colors exist in different latitudes. Dark skin colors in particular, to this question, hardly even asked in the Middle Ages. The response varied, but most of them implicated the climate and the sun's rays. The vocabulary reflected these new preoccupations. Dark-skinned Africans, who until then had been called Moors, like the inhabitants of the Maghreb or Ethiopians, a vague term, became Negroes or blacks, not yet colored people. That expression would have to wait for the centuries and the aftermath of the first abolition of slavery, Blythe French Convention in 1794. This lexical shift from black to color seems to prepare the way for the future return of black to the chromatic order even before white. So now they're trying to make black not so bad again, right? Okay, yeah, that's the last. Well, this is the last slide. I got a video, uh, part of a video from a former member of the Mossi, uh, Shabazz. The only reason why I put this in is because he breaks it down uh, very simple in elementary terms. And if you don't understand this, then you just weren't made to understand it, bro. So it's only 4.5 minutes. We'll play this, and then I'm gonna show my slide for my sources, and then I'm done.
Now let's get into what exactly is a Moor. Let's get into that right now. What is a Moor? A Moor is basically a name given to people that some people have taken on the continent of Africa. It's a name given to people from the outside that some people on the continent have taken on. Let me give you an example. 1908, real quick. I'll give you an example. Camera set up. You could use any old map, man, but this should work. We're going to elementary school, man. The Kalia told Snake Ass. Alright. I got an old map, man, but it ain't big enough. This is a map from 18th century, 1750. Look at how they call out people inferior Ethiopia on the west. Ethiopia is superior. Alright, anyway. Alright, so let's go to elementary school, man. Let's rock. Alright. Each one of these pennies represent a tribe of people. I'm not gonna go into all the names and stuff right now. I'm just gonna show you what is a Moor. I should put the black pennies at the bottom. Alright. Put the black pennies at the bottom. Alright. I should even do something this way. The pennies are representative of the people. And all of these people know each other now. These people know these people, these people know these people, these people know these people. All these people know each other now. All of them, no exception. None of them call each other Moors. None of them. You have these people come down. It's elementary school, like I told you, man. Yeah. These people see these people and call them Moors. This is where the word Moor comes from. This is as simple as it's going to get. And if you don't understand this, man, you're just not going to get it. These people come in, like if you go all back to BC times with the word Moray, I mean, some of these people may have took it on, or they were actually calling themselves that word Moray. But the word Moor comes from these people, outsiders, foreigners. None of these people are calling themselves that, except this maybe one group of people. Hope you understand it. And I'm gonna show you the works in the book, and hopefully we can drive the point home. But it's coming from foreigners. So all you people naming these people Moors, everybody in West Africa Moors. I mean, it's just disrespectful asinine. You worse than the foreigners if you just blindly label everybody on Moor. It makes no sense. So let me drive it home in the book. Now you might be saying, how do I know these people here weren't calling each other Moors? Well, I go to the source. That's how I know. These people know each other's names, right?
Alright, so I stopped it there. He says these people wasn't calling themselves Moors because he went to the source. That's how he knows. And these Arabic sources, now these Arabs are who these Europeans are calling Moors. And when you go to these Arabic sources, they're not using that term. They're not saying that at all. You can go to the Arabic sources and read them. Like it's not nothing private. It's not nothing that you couldn't buy and pick up and read today. I don't have the corpus, but I do have the Tariqs. I have a few other Arabic.
I got the corpus.
Yeah, I know Shawn got the corpus, and
and you don't see the term in the Arabic sources.
There you go. There you go. These people ain't calling themselves that, bro. And like he said, you will be a fool to blindly label the whole of Africa as one thing. We've never been one thing. These people have their own names. They're Fula, they're Hausa, they're Mandinka, they're Maasai, they're the Mossi. They got their own names, bro.
Hey, what you do see the Arabs calling people lamb, tam, cam. You know what I mean? They calling them names like that because they don't know what to call them. But you'll see familiar sources over and over, these Arabic sources over and over and over, lamb, tam, cam.
Yep. Or you will see them call them by their actual names, like that. But one thing you won't see, especially in Arabic literature from Africa, you will not see these people calling anybody Moors. They just don't do that. They don't do that. So these are my sources. That's my source material. I only use these three source references. I will be coming back and adding on to this. That's why I didn't go too deep. I only wanted to deal with the actual term and how it shifts over time and what it means over time, so on and so forth. So, I'll be putting together something, a part two, to actually deal with the people and who they were and, what they were doing and 7-Eleven and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's my sources. Pause that, write that down, and get at them. This book, Black: A History of Color, which is what my last few slides were from. That is a good book. That's a very good book. All three of these are good, but I advise everybody to read that. Like, even if you ain't into the Moor thing, or it shows how the color blacks evolves over time in the minds of people. So yeah, my last slide, man. Get the book. You already know I gotta push it. Spears of the Mossi, Historical Survey of the Minds of African Warriors, Volume 1 is out right now. It's been out since the end of May, the beginning of June. Volume 2 is on the way. Uh, we will be dropping that or publishing that very soon. Very soon. Hopefully, before you get done reading Volume 1, we're going to be hitting you in the head with Volume 2. And I'm very excited, and I'm anticipating Volume 2 because I went in a little more extensively on my article, and I touched on something that I think might be interesting to a lot of people. And speaking of, in the chat, Fidawari says Al Jahiz, uh, he wrote in the 9th century, and skin color has been a thing since then. But I say that these Arabs made skin color a thing before the 9th century. And if you want to know more about that, if you want to know more about colorism, uh, racism of these Arabs, how they felt about you and your ancestors and all black Africans, even the dark skinned people within their society, within their ethnic groups, then you will have to wait on uh, Kofi Piesie Research Team's Volume 2 from Spears to Pen. I will be discussing that. And anybody that's interested, get ready for Volume 2. That's all I got.
Hey, bro, that was an excellent presentation.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
I mean, yeah, this is what we all need, and I'm gonna say for myself because, like, I think a couple weeks ago I had hit you up asking you some questions,
Right.
inquiring about this whole Moor thing. And see Kofi holding it up right there, Volume 1. That's right. But the thing about I think you mentioned it in your presentation, that term that they're using for those people, no different than the terms that get, bestowed upon us here. Whatever kind of term it is, be it negative or positive, we're dealing with the English language. So therefore, the whole conceptualization is from that mindset, whether you deal with etymology or not. The culture of Eurocentric thought is to not deal with etymology. We just want to focus on how we're using the word today with no recollection, no reference, and no care about the root of it.
Hey,
go ahead, bro.
T'Challa, I do want to say they do deal with etymology, but it does not accept African languages as a part of the etymology. So therefore, there lies the problem with when you're dealing with words and things of that nature, and we're talking about this language that we're actually speaking. They do not deal. I'm gonna say it again for the audience. If you look up any etymology dictionary, which is really you go to etymology.com, they do not include any African languages. There's
That's
the
a fact.
problem.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Shawn, for pointing that one out.
And right, I mean that's really what it is. I have a big thing about that, being interested in language myself. I kill the conversation in the door with a lot of things when it comes to, like, these exonymic, you know what I'm saying, ethnonyms, where you have an outside source naming an ethnic group. I don't like that. I don't like to say Egypt when we talking about Kemet. I don't like to say Pharaoh when we talking about the different lawsuits. I don't like to say those words. But because we speak English, we have to deal with, like Shawn said, we have to stop at the Greek and Latin uh, etymological, you know what I'm saying, definition, instead of going past to where these civilizations have pulled from. They have been extracting knowledge from and resources and people and everything else from this continent landmass we have grown to call Africa. Um, I have a real big problem with that because when we get into defining who we are with this identity crisis, a lot of us suffer from the what I call the Moorish paradigm, where those Moors that don't know the history, they just calling themselves that. Or those people who are black in America and don't know nothing about Africa, we're saying, oh, we're not African. You know what I'm saying? So what are you checking off on the job application? You know, but I
African
won't hog the
American,
mic.
they African American, they putting it on there. They putting African American on there. If it's got African American slot on there, they putting African American. I guarantee it. I guarantee they ain't going all the way down to the bottom and hitting other and putting other on it. Guarantee. Trying to get that job.
Well, I don't know about that because my black ass will check that mark just so I can get a call back, and then we'll discuss that once we meet. Growing up black in America, you learn them tricks. But now, can I ask a serious question?
Y'all see, Ross, he trying to get in. I can't.
I literally
go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob.
Can I ask y'all a question? Since we was alluding to the problems of etymology and things of that nature. Is it possible that in our quest to prove that we've been illiterate people and find certain scripts that we miss the target of what European societies was implying when they said we was an illiterate people? Not our ability to read or write, but to more so mimic the idea that we didn't even have a verbal language, to dehumanize us even more, to strip us from even having a working language amongst each other. And if we look at that, you can understand at certain periods of times why it seems to be they almost write us out completely of history. And we have such scarce resources to find our story, but it seems to be almost certainly through the lens of someone else giving us the story in most cases. So could that be a part of the problem that we have to attack at some point? If y'all get where I was going.
Shoot, I'm pretty sure it's part of it. Yeah, you do have a point. A lot of the history that comes down to us comes through people that we don't identify with. So yeah, I understand exactly what you mean.
For example, I like to toss it out from time to time because it's such it's a good starting point in conversation to show these racial relationships in the Iberian Peninsula. And if you look at that Conde Negro, I think it was 1474, it clearly states that these is Negroes, separating them from Moor, Spanish, and other groups of people, and that they elected, I want to say his name is Juan something, Juan Valade, something in that nature. Y'all have to forgive me if I don't have his name properly done. But he's elected to be a black mayor over these black people in this specific area for black people. So that might be something, to add into the conversation, to say, yeah, they was identifying differences. They was clearly identifying differences. We just don't have enough resources, to combat, from what I'm seeing, our story from our lens, which makes what we're doing so important. So I like this conversation. This is not my lane, but these are little things I'm learning as I hear y'all talk about it.
Hey man, make sure y'all got some tip around here, man.
I think, I see True Storian put his name in the YouTube chat. Thanks for that. I'm gonna go to mute.
I got some guacamole right here. You want some guacamole?
Yeah, and
Then be quiet. Then.
Another thing, with explaining the shifting slipperiness of this term more, now you can understand a little better when you get these primary sources of Europeans coming over to the Americas and saying they seen Moors here, or somebody else referring to so and so as a Moor. Like, you can't use that word in a concrete context because it depends on who you're talking to, when you're talking to them, and where that person is from. You know what I mean? So it's difficult when you can't just see more and say, "Oh, this was these people."
Mm-hmm. Can I try to answer your question from the show, if y'all don't mind, or y'all want to wrap it up? I don't know how y'all doing the time on this one. It won't take me long. But to your question on here, what's your nationality? The real reason why I put Gullah at the end of my name, and if y'all look, my name is lowercase, but the Gullah is capitalized. I've heard, not too many, but I've heard a few say that, you could probably argue that 60 to 70% of the African slaves that came through the, rice coast of the colonial periods could have been classified as Gullah. We dispersed later through time, but, they trying to say, they putting the emphasis of how many people came through these regions and how that, helped spread the population of us here. Whether it was done with ill intentions or not, I've seen it argued this way. To me, if you see these amalgamations of nations throughout the globe, being made in specific ways for specific reasons when you're describing history, it makes sense to kind of entertain the idea that maybe if we went this way, we can do like the tribes did and make this nation expand. And I like the idea of using that, because you can cross over from slavery to the Jim Crow era by looking at the Rice Coast and what happened to Black people there, and build a case for what we call it reparations from a national base. So I think it makes a good thing for us to also explore as well. So that's why I use that. Because we can, a lot of us, if we look hard enough, you're gonna trace your roots to somebody there, an aunt, a cousin, a grandma, somebody. You're gonna find them through that line. So it makes sense to, at least entertain that idea, at least in my mind. So that's why I put it, Joe.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Shiz Moose said, "What's the harm in African Americans calling themselves whatever they want?" I mean, the problem is unity. We already have a identity crisis where we think we are Moors, we think we are Native Americans, we think we are Hebrews or Jews. That's just more division within us, and we don't need that. We don't need help being divided. We got enough of that already. You see, when Europeans came here, they're not talking about they are British American or they are fucking Irish American or not. They just white. They white. They clicked up all together, and they found a unity and they found a bond. We have to do the same thing if we gonna come up. We can't be we don't need any more help being divided, bro. We got that enough.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Shoot, real quick, man, before we get up off of here, Shawn over there, I don't know what the hell he over there burning up, but he burning up something. Him and Sutekh Akande, man, for some reason just think they can cook, man. Well, hold on, let me share my screen, man, because I want to.
Oh damn, Shawn got the what's that? Well, okay, Shawn.
I'm getting to it. You know what I'm talking about? I'm getting to it. Kofi can hate all he want to, but I'm getting to it, man. I'm cooking dinner and dessert. You feel me? I'm getting to it. Wait till you see my finished product.
Yeah, whatever. Hold on, I'm finna share my
Hey,
screen
stay
real
out of
quick.
my conversation, man. You having your own?
Yeah, Kofi, while you pulling that up, I thought I was in here, but obviously I wasn't. I was talking, couldn't nobody hear me. But yeah, as far as the Moor discussion, I don't got that much experience in it, but just like from what I've seen, I agree with Sutekh because I don't see the indigenous people calling themselves Moors. It was an outside person calling them Moors, kind of like with the Ethiopian, kind of like with the word Ethiopian, like that term, the native, I believe it was called Abyssinia first, but yeah, I just feel like the more, and then I was watching, I don't know if anybody in the chat or on the panel ever seen that movie, Black Knight or Dark Knight or some shit. No, it's called Black Knight.
Yeah,
With Martin Lawrence in it.
I seen it.
They was calling him a Moor the whole time. So I just think
they sure will.
Yeah, they was calling him a Moor the whole time. He'll pop up, dude, be like the Moor, because I just watched it like not too long ago again, and I was like, damn, they calling him a Moor on here. I don't know if they was meaning it in the derogatory term, but that's just what they labeled him as. And when I did that presentation on Gannibal Petrov, when he went to Russia, the Russians was calling him the Moor. They were saying this is Peter the Great's Moor. You know what I'm saying? So I would like to see some historical comparative linguistics when it comes to what did that term mean when somebody referred to you as that, if somebody hasn't already done it yet. But
didn't they call Morgan Freeman? Couldn't get it out. Morgan Freeman won in that Robin Hood movie with Kevin Costner.
I ain't seen that one, but I believe it because it's around that same time period as that Black Knight movie. It was like night and stuff.
And is it possible, if we entertain that, does all that stem from pop culture and Shakespeare putting out that Othello piece? That might be something we can get Danny to answer, since he looks at pop culture and the lens. Why they started putting them in the movies like that and highlighting certain little bitty things that way.
Yeah, but come on, so we can go ahead and end it, man. But first I want to say peace to Kiyata Thomas. He just subscribed to the channel, and peace to Good Ella. Those are 2 new subscribers. Appreciate y'all subscribing to the channel. Hope y'all find what y'all looking for on this channel. Right here I pulled up real quick. I got we gotta promote. Up here, if you want the Spears of the Mossi t-shirts, you can go to KofiPiesie.tv.com, go to the London Market, click the apparel, and you can get not a Kofi, but a Spears of the Mossi t-shirt. If you want the book, let's see, let me go back. If you want the book, you also can go in the London Market. Just go in the London Market. I'm trying to see if it's reloading back. Let me see. Let's go to card. No, let's go back to customer page. Excuse me, y'all. All right. I don't know what happened.
I got a question too when you're done, Kofi. Because I'm sitting here looking at the chat.
Yeah. What you gonna respond to Shares Moon?
I mean, it wasn't a response. It was more of a question because Sutekh answering, so I want to ask as well. But no, I was just gonna say because I was like wondering what they mean by Moor, and they saying black to us, and then Sutekh responded, it meant black in a certain time period to certain people. Now I thought the Moors didn't like black. Like they said, black is deaf and deaf is, and whatever they got going on.
That's what they say. He's saying these confused American Moors.
So that's the new Moors. That ain't the old Moors.
Right.
Okay.
That's people that follow Noble Drew Ali's teaching.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think he said he used the status as white, white man or something. I seen it in here twice. He said something about white. They white. No,
For real,
yeah,
bro.
they white. So,
Well, see, let me address that though, because like the way we looking at white ain't the way that the status is. You know what I'm saying? Like when they say I'm white, they mean like I'm of prestige when I come over to this country. I don't. They not
yeah,
talking about the color. Like I know Africans that they status is white and they blacker than me, but it's just a
yep,
status. Like I think
yeah,
we
yeah.
get confused over
Mhm.
here. You know what I'm saying? And we debate amongst each other. You know, like oh I ain't white, but like when they using it in that sense, kind of like how Sutekh said to in a certain time period to a certain people. In this time period that we in, and a certain people over here in America, white means a status when you coming from another country. It's not talking about your skin color at all.
Yep, yeah. Because there was a documentary I seen of a brother coming from Egypt, and he said when he got over here, they gave him the status as white. They gave him a white status when he made it over here. But I can't remember what the documentary was, but it was a documentary. He was talking about his trip from Egypt to over here, and then them putting him in as a status of white. But he actually, and it's been some years, a few years since I looked at it. But he kind of broke down why they gave him it. But he didn't know that at first when he first got over here. I might have to find that dang documentary, but it was a documentary, man. But that's been a few years ago, man, since we seen it. But anyway, man, go to the London Market, get your Spears of the Mossy book, or you can go to Amazon.com and type in Spears of the Mossy, just type in Kofi Piesie Research Team and on Amazon, and you can get your Spears of the Mossy. And those who are in Atlanta, um um maybe at the end of this week, should be at the end of the week because I think those books will make it. I don't know what date it was. I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday that it's gonna make it to Bro Unc. But y'all, if y'all in the area where Brother Unc is in, I don't know what part of Georgia, Pathonia. I can't remember the name of it, but it would be at his cultural center, his bookstore. So if y'all in that area, y'all be able to cop the book also out of Unc's bookstore. And speaking of Unc, go support his go to Abjuware, the Movement Men Premium Organic T-shirts, the Black Lives Always Matter T-shirts. I'm definitely gonna order mine in a few minutes because I want my shirt. Anything I know dealing with black, black, red, and I mean red, black, and green. I'm going, I'm going to buy it. That's just me. Everything that I wear is red, black, and green, some type of combination with it. So go to Abjuware and get your Black Lives Always Matter t-shirts. Again, that is abjuware.com. We gotta support each other. We really gonna push this movement of reciprocity, reciprocity, reciprocity. We gonna support those who support us. Brother Unc support us. We don't have to ask Unc to support us. He just support us, and we support him, and we support those who support us. So there's always gonna be an equal exchange over here. We always gonna practice reciprocity over here. So please go um the Abjuware and get your Black Lives. Black Lives Always Matter. And again, go to Kofi Piesie TV and get your Spears of the Mossy t-shirts. Um, man, that's it, man. We'll be back again this evening. Well, we'll be tonight. We'll be on Facebook. Um, we'll be on Facebook. Having a discussion tonight on Facebook. We've been for the past. This will be a month where we've been regularly going live on Facebook, and trying to captivate the minds of some of those that's on Facebook that doesn't watch YouTube videos. So we'll be having a powerful uh, discussion um, on is Black Power the same as white power? So y'all don't want to miss that. We'll be live at 8 p.m. Um, on Facebook. We'll be live on my personal channel. We'll be live on our like page. So if you hadn't went and liked the page on Facebook, go like Kofi Piesie Research Team like page. We have some information on there. We have some live videos on there as well. That is Kofi Piesie Research Team like page on Facebook. Also go to Mossi Warrior Clan like page if you hadn't liked that page. Also like that page. So we'll be streaming from those platforms tonight at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Again, discussion is Black Power the same as white power? That's all we have, man. We appreciate everybody for tuning in, man. Y'all could have been doing anything else with y'all time, but y'all tune in and support to what we got going on, man. So we appreciate it, and we will be missing a few other things down maybe coming down the line this evening. But again, man, peace and Black African power, man. Peace and love, man. If you had subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. If you hadn't subscribed to Mossi Warrior Clan YouTube channel, please subscribe to that channel as well, because you see us on both platforms. So please support. And again, go pick up your copy of the Spirits of the Mossi, a historical survey in the mind of African warriors, Volume 1. Sutekh showed you Volume 2, which is slated for August the 14th. So be prepared for that. So go ahead and get your Volume 1 so you can be up to speed. So when we put out Volume 2 in August, you'll be already up to speed. Please support. Please subscribe. Again, Black African Power, Shimim Hotep, which means to depart in peace. We'll see y'all this evening, late this evening at 8 p.m. on Facebook, man. We out this thing. Make sure okay. Did it end? Or is we still live?
We still live.
Yeah, man. It's okay. End progress.